Welcome to the April edition of North St. Paul Notes. I'm your host, Paul Anderson. Coming up in the next half hour, we're going to learn about the North St. Paul Historical Society and Museum. Stay tuned. North St. Paul Notes is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to the April edition of North St. Paul Notes. We hope this show will keep you up to date on the news and events that are of interest to the residents of North St. Paul. The North St. Paul Historical Society's mission is to promote an awareness of North St. Paul history for residents and visitors through education, interpretation, presentation, and preservation. Today I'm joined by Sue Springborn and Luke Coran to talk more about the Historical Society and Museum. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good to have you here. It's one of my favorite topics. And I should tell you that I just happened to pick up this quote from someplace, and it was from it was in the paper recently, as a quote from a historian named Daniel Borstein, and the quote is, "Trying to plan for the future without knowing the past is like trying to plant cut flowers." Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sue is with the North St. Paul Green, so she knows about planting cut flowers.
Well, you have to have roots.
You have to have roots, yeah. And we all have roots, right? Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, that's another subject. But it's kind of interesting to have you two here because you've been so busy with the North St. Paul Historical Society and the museum, so it's long overdue, I guess. Sue, how long have you been in this job as president?
I was afraid you were going to ask me things like that. I think that this is my second term as president.
Second term, okay. Mm-hmm. And it's a 2-year term.
I believe so.
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's right. I seem to remember that too. But you are a lifelong resident of North St. Paul, aren't you?
Yes.
So you grew up here and have lived in town the whole time, I guess.
Yes, I have.
And so
yes.
Has that been an advantage for you as far as having your association with the Historical Society?
I think the advantage is coming from a large family and knowing a variety of generations.
Sure.
More than anything, because our family, there were 6 of us, and we were spread out over 18 years. And so some of the people I know best are in their 80s, actually.
Right. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting that you should answer it that way, because that's exactly what I was feeling, that mm-hmm. having grown up in North St. Paul, not living here the whole time, it gives you some insight into some of the residents and former residents and the different generations. Mm-hmm. I had 3 older siblings, and so I knew a couple of generations of people as a result of that, so that really made a difference. What other groups are you involved with currently?
I'm on the Environmental Commission, and I'm also involved with North St. Paul Green.
Okay. I should add that well, what is one of your responsibilities with North St. Paul Green? You can describe that.
I don't anymore. I haven't done it anymore. I watered for quite a number of years.
Okay.
The city allowed me to use hoses and hook up to fire hydrants, and I haven't done it for 2 years, partly because we've had enough water.
Right.
And I haven't
mm-hmm.
needed to. But I haven't let go of my equipment. Okay. So we'll see what happens.
You still have all the hoses you
I have all the hoses. I have them in a secret place.
Okay.
And so we'll see what happens this year.
Well, it used to be interesting to see you out in the morning, early morning, quite early sometimes, mm-hmm. and you got to know some of the early patrons of some of the businesses along the main street too.
Actually, it sounds kind of strange, but I really enjoyed doing that early in the morning. It'd be quiet, and you could sit there and reflect
Right.
on the day, and as you were dragging hoses up and down the street, and it's quite a pleasant job, actually.
Okay.
It is.
But it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, yeah, it is a lot of work.
Well, I guess you deserve some time off from that now.
Well, we'll see what happens now. It all depends. Only God knows how much I'll have to do.
Right.
Because how much
Right.
rain we get.
Yeah, when I mentioned that quote before, I had some experience in schools, and it seems that whenever you're teaching a subject like American history or any history, you always have to try to justify that with students, because everyone's questioning, well, what do we need this for? And so that's an explanation I've given over and over, and or not that exact one, but other explanations. So, Luke, I wanted to mention to you, you are now I guess we call you an intern.
Yes.
Serving as an intern. How did you become connected with the North St. Paul Historical Society?
Well, following the earning of my bachelor's degree from North Dakota State University this past May, and after a hectic summer schedule, I ended up back in my hometown of on the east side of St. Paul.
Okay.
And after a brief job search, seeing what was available for students with a bachelor's degree, I couldn't find anything really with the job. So I thought, the reason that I'm not in graduate school at the moment was I wanted to do a little bit of everything. I wanted to see what struck me the most about this field. What did I have the most passion about? So I was looking for local historical societies in the East Metro, where I grew up with, where I became really familiar with the town, with the people. Mm-hmm. And the North St. Paul Historical Society was one of the first places that I reached out to. When Sue reconnected with me after our initial meeting, she brought me in for a tour on a Saturday, and I was just blown away by this very small museum setting, and we have so much history in this town. We were a planned community from the 1886, I believe.
87, right?
87.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and it was beautiful how passionate both Sue, our president, you, Paul, as our curator, and our other volunteers who, and our board members who are so diligent about preserving and collecting and presenting this history, how passionate you are. So, so yes, that really drew my attention, and I said, yes, I would like to help out in any way possible. Mm-hmm. And we were just discussing how would be a way to get involved now. Mm-hmm. And one of our ideas was, let's get to know our collections a little bit more. So with that, we ventured out on an inventory. Inventory has already been completed by previous volunteers, actually just in the last 2 years or so. Right. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to get to know our collection just a little bit more, some of the details of each object, the years they might have been used, and how were they used by local North St. Paul residents. Mm-hmm. So we have been doing that. We have been noting the location that they are in our museum. So if we do future exhibits, like a World War I exhibit in the next year or so, we can locate that right away instead of looking through every nook and cranny in our storage room. So yes, have been labeling each material, each item, and yes, have been also doing interpretive text, have making museum labels for all of our objects currently on display. So it's nice to add a little bit of flavor, personal history to each of our items.
Mm-hmm. Well, your experience and knowledge of dealing with the computer and other items. Now, what was your major at North Dakota?
So I double majored in both public history and one second. I both double majored in public history and history with a minor in anthropology. But yeah, since I was 6 years old, very in-depth in our computer classes at school.
Sure.
And also with North Dakota State University, our public history director, who came in the year that I started back in 2012. She was on the cutting edge of the graphic design era.
Okay.
And then with that, when she decided to get her doctorate in public history, she brought that to North Dakota. So we're really privileged to learn all that there is about digital history, about making documentaries, and so forth. So
Okay.
it's been very, very privileging to get all that hands-on experience with all the equipment that she has purchased for her
Okay.
program.
So we're really benefiting from what you learned at North Dakota.
I would like to think so, and it was definitely because of our professors there in Fargo.
Well, most of us are at the age now, most of us, I should say, on the board and those running the program at the museum never had that kind of experience. So it's really very helpful to have somebody who has that experience. And we benefit from your being younger too, because as we get older, it's harder to do some of those tasks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, I'm definitely learning a lot from all of you. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, and hopefully it can, that can transfer to the next generations.
Anything else that you've been doing at the museum, other than you've been busy with this other task, I know, but
Absolutely. Well, with that inventory, we prioritize looking at all of our items related to the Standard Conveyor Company. We had a community presentation this past January where we had 3 company workers come to the museum on a Tuesday night, and the place was just packed. The place was just packed, thanks to Sue's advertising in local forums and so forth. And it was just amazing to see everybody who, even if the company went bankrupt 30 years ago, they were still there, and they had nothing but good memories. They were very, up in front about, how things played out in the late 1970s, but in the end, they only shared what they truly remembered, which was going to work every day and what it meant for their families.
sure. It was, I guess, fortunate that we didn't wait too long to do that program, because eventually you lose all those people, and then you lost a lot of information. So I think we're still gathering information about that. And as you say, it was busy that night. I was worried that we wouldn't have enough chairs, and as it turned out, we did. But it's always we have our limitations as far as seating is concerned, and space, of course. So. Sue, you have good memories of that night too, when we had the Standard Conveyor people there. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, one of the best things to me about working at the museum anyway, besides that, is connecting people. And that's happened several times, and I've observed it. And that night in particular, there was a gentleman there that called me the next day and wanted to know the telephone number of one of the fellows, because he wanted to call and thank him. Because his family had some bitter memories about Standard Conveyor when they closed. And after that program, he was comfortable then with what had actually happened. And he felt like he wasn't bitter anymore, and he wanted to talk to that person and tell them how much he appreciated the program. That was gratifying.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's an unexpected result, I guess, that happens. So. But it was a very successful program, and we've had others that have been very well accepted.
Well, and other things like that have happened. We had a phone call or an email from someone that wanted to know something about the Ritchie House on 15th. You probably remember that.
The log house.
Yes, and I just so happened to remember who lived there, and I contacted the people that had grown up in that house, and just so happened they had all kinds of literature, and they met at the museum, and were able to talk about the history of the house. And to me, that's what we're there for. That's so gratifying for that to happen.
So there are a number of things that happen at the museum that are really positive for the city, I think. And I think that's partly the reason why the city of North St. Paul gives us such good support. We get a lot of support from the city, and we wouldn't be able to exist if we didn't get that kind of support. So
That's right.
that's another positive. Luke, what are some other activities you might try at the museum? Have you thought about that?
Well, yes. I believe it was produced in the mid 1980s, but there's a video, a documentary that was produced
Right.
with the North St. Paul Historical Society in mind, and it really documents everything up to that point in history in North St. Paul's era, especially in the early 1800s.
Right.
The late 1800s.
Right.
But yes, I think I would like to make a new documentary, something that would cover what has been happening the last 30 years. Maybe just covering, is it Highway 36, some of that, the corridor, some of those improvements. It would be nice to cover just everything that has been happening in our the rich town's history.
Sure.
So a documentary would be first and foremost what I would be more than eager to go after.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that as we go on, you'll be, depending on how long you stay with us, you'll be thinking of other things that you could be doing too that would be another positive for us.
Absolutely.
So.
And yes, hopefully in the next month or so, we can begin planning with everybody on board, all the board members, all the volunteers, you and Sue. It'd be nice to discuss where do we go with our proposed World War I exhibit. The United States entered World War I in April of 1917, and then the war was over by November 1918. So that year and a half where the U.S. was involved in the war, it'd be nice to commemorate that. Hopefully no later than November of 2017, and we could possibly have a year-long exhibit of varying, varying scope. So
Sure.
it'd be nice to do something with that.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to get any veterans.
Okay.
We're beyond that point, but
Yeah.
so we can't have a program with World War I veterans. You are also involved, I think, Luke, in some other organizations. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Also since September, October, not only have I been with North St. Paul Historical Society, but I've been serving as a volunteer with both Ramsey County Historical Society, which is located in the Landmark Center in downtown St. Paul, and then also with the North Star Museum of Boy Scouting and Girl Scouting, located right down the street by the North St. Paul Historical Society building.
Right across the street.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
And then yes, some other locations. Just spending my time any way possible because I just have a lot of a big passion for life at the moment in my early 20s. I want to just spread myself across everywhere. And but yes, with the museums, with the Boy Scouting Museum, we are doing an oral history project, getting that all the research, all the preparation phase completed. So we're going to interview old council presidents from the area that are still living. Some of them are in their late 80s, early 90s. So
Sure.
It is definitely a priority to interview them as soon as possible.
Didn't you say something about being involved in Scott County too?
Oh, that was
That's
Tyler. But
Oh,
yes,
that's
we have.
right. I was thinking that was you, but that's.
No.
I'm going to ask Sue to mention something about other interns we've had or do have, and so she can mention that at the time too. So maybe you should say something about that right now. Sue.
Well, we've been blessed. A few years ago, a young woman by the name of Lauren Allen came to us, and she did an internship through Hamlin College at the museum, and at that time we didn't have any photos digitalized. She started and almost completed digitalizing all our photos.
Right.
And actually she's still involved in the museum in various ways. But about the same time Luke came along, a young man by the name of Tyler Kinsella came, and the same thing, he just graduated from college and is looking for volunteer work. And so he completed digitalizing our photos, and now he is going to be starting to work on this World War I exhibit that Luke was talking about. He's hoping to start that next month.
Okay.
And I don't know when that'll be finished. I did ask to have in our Historical Society newsletter put a little blurb in there if anybody in North St. Paul has any memorabilia, letters, anything like that that ties anybody from North St. Paul to World War I. It makes more sense. We would like to make it more personable and more applicable to North St. Paul. And so I don't know if we'll get anything, but it would be fun if we did.
Sure, that's right.
And I know we have your father's World War I uniform.
He was a veteran. He was a Swedish immigrant and then got drafted. So how lucky is that?
How lucky is that? So Tyler actually has kind of a full-time job now, but he plans on coming back and helping us.
And he's the one who's also dealing with Scott
County.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
That's right. No,
yes.
I knew that came from someplace, but I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Are there other projects that you have in mind, or?
Well, one of the big ones that's on all our minds is the a stained glass window from Peralt's. Anybody that grew up in North St. Paul remembers Peralt's. It was called a confectionery. They had a
Right.
soda fountain and they sold candy there. And there was a 12-foot long stained glass window above it that said WB.
I
It
can't
was
remember.
William
now.
Peralt.
William Peralt,
Yes.
anyway.
And it's a beautiful window, and it had been sitting in a crate for like 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
And finally we took it out, and we found someone to restore it, and he restored it, and now it's back in the crate, in storage again, waiting until we get a carpenter to build a frame. It's going to be quite a chore to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's so large, and we're going to hang it on a wall and backlight it. So there's going to be a lot.
It's a complicated
It's a
project.
complicated
Yeah.
process. That's right.
Yeah.
And so that
As,
will be happening.
as you say, we do have a cabinet maker who's
Right.
working on a enclosure for it, and then we'll have to have an electrician wired up
Right.
for lighting from the back, and it'll show it off best, I think. And we have a spot on the wall.
Exactly.
Another thing I was thinking about and wondering about is how we're going to lift it up to that position on the wall. But I guess that's something
we'll get manpower.
We'll get enough force behind it.
One of the things that I'm struck with often is how blessed we've been with what people in the past have done. We walked into this wonderful museum where others had worked so hard at getting it, the collection, the building, the organization. I could never have even imagined being part of that kind of work.
Right.
So I feel very lucky.
Yeah, we're lucky that somebody had the foresight
Right.
to do that, and it's kind of another example was where someone rescued the old photos from the North
Yes.
North High that had been hanging in the old building, and then they were tossed into a dumpster, and one of the custodians at the time had enough sense to pull them out and donate them to the Historical Society. So those are on display now, and people can come in and see those photos mostly from the 20s, but they're very interesting to look at. A lot of names that are still familiar in North St. Paul, graduates from those days.
I know a lot of those.
Yeah,
I knew
I know.
a lot of people that
That's
are
right.
on.
That's another one of the advantages of being here for
That's right.
all this time. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting process. And another project that you were involved with was the restoration of the piano, the player piano.
Yes, we were again so blessed. We had a piano that had been built at the Wick Piano Company in North St. Paul, but then another piano was offered to us that was a player piano, and it had a better case, and so we accepted that donation. But some of the innards of it weren't quite up to par, and we had a piano fellow look at it, and our concern was if we didn't repair it and didn't get it in good shape, that we'd lose it down the
Right.
road. And so it was very costly, but it's wonderful, and it sounds wonderful, and we're happy to it's a lot of fun. The kids adults enjoy it too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's always fun play it for kids when
Yes.
they come in. They just kind of get bug-eyed
right.
trying to figure out how does that work. But another thing that we learned was that there aren't that many people around who are still working on player pianos. That's another lost art, and so we were fortunate to find one person, probably the only one in the Twin Cities that we could find, who still worked on player pianos.
Well, and that's another reason we felt that it was imperative that we did it, because in 10 years maybe there wouldn't be anybody around that could do it.
That's right. And the value of that piano is that Wick Piano Company had been in North St. Paul from about 1903, I think, up until into the 30s. So, and that went out of business. But it's nice to have relics from that era.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's really helpful. Maybe you should mention a few things that are going to be happening at the museum. We do
Yes.
have programs the fourth Tuesday of each month, except during the summer, and over Christmas we don't have a program. But just can you mention some that
Yes.
are coming up?
Yes. Tuesday, March 28th, Susanna and Ilya Gorodisher, they're the owners of Love Ice Cream, LUV Ice Cream, which is in the old Harry's Drugstore, right on Main Street in North St. Paul. The neon sign is there, but it says Love instead of Harry's Rexall.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they've fixed up that building, and they've really made a nice improvement in the building.
Right, and they had been producing ice cream in a commercial kitchen that they were renting, but now they're doing it there, and they also have a small retail area in front. So that's going to be interesting. And on Tuesday, April 25th, Kevin Jentz, a longtime resident of North St. Paul and a charter member of the Historical Society, is going to come and talk about a variety of topics about North St. Paul. And this one, the guys that are taping this might actually be interested in this fella. His name is Tom Osman, and he's the director of MC Media Now. It's a nonprofit which preserves and provides access to Twin Cities media and cultural history. And he's been collecting for 60 years documentaries, interviews, and memories of our area, and he's going to come and show some of those highlights.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, well, he has a real interest there.
Yes,
so.
I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that should be fun. Well, it sounds interesting. The only problem was that the Love program is not going to be appearing. This program will not be appearing until April.
Oh,
and
so they won't. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. We like to talk about it anyway. So
The other thing I want to plug here is our plant sale.
Oh, that's right.
We have a plant sale once a year, always the Saturday before Mother's Day, which I believe is the 13th of May. It's right at the museum, right on Main Street, from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. And that's really the only fundraising kind of thing that we do. It's the only thing that we ask people to support.
One other thing we want to mention briefly.
Yes. Oh.
Why don't you say something about that
This
since
is
you'll be on camera?
Yeah, this is the history book. This is a special edition. It was the 100 years, and then we added the last 25 years in 2012 at the 125th anniversary.
And it's for sale at the museum or at City Hall. And it's the cost is $25, which is a bargain for what that book contains.
It's a fountain of information.
Well, you know what? We're out of time.
Oh.
And so we appreciate you, Sue, appearing, and also Luke. So thanks again for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us.
We're out of time on this month's show. Join us again next month when we'll bring you more news about North St. Paul. I'm Paul Anderson, speaking for everyone at the City of North St. Paul. Thank you for watching.